I do not believe Starmer will still be Prime Minister at the end of May. We are growing in the Northwest. Mm-hmm. We're growing in the Greater Manchester area. We're growing more broadly across the Northwest. The Labour Party in their heartlands, in the Midlands, the Northwest, the Northeast, and in particular South Wales and parts of Scotland. And if we achieve anything like our potential, I do not believe Starmer will still be Prime Minister at the end of May. This is the most unpopular Prime Minister in living memory. Without doubt, the least patriotic Prime Minister in history. Nobody else can do this. The Conservatives are not even in the race. The Greens might hurt them in the big cities, but we can. We can. If we get enough people to vote reform, get Starmer out. That's our big campaign theme and message, and I think it's going to appeal.
Lovely.
You've criticised Donald Trump as going too far this week with his comments on Iran. And
as I've often done, yes.
Well, exactly. I wanted to ask you, do you think people have been slow to catch up on how critical you've been of the president? Can we expect to hear you diverge more from him in the months ahead?
I just think what really matters is this country's relationship with America. Linguistically, culturally, in terms of cross-investment, in terms of business, but crucially in terms of defence. It is our most important relationship in the world. And given that we currently haven't got an operational Royal Navy, I think that link with America is very, very strong. And so that's, whether it's Biden in the White House or Trump, I happen to know him, but that's by the by. And we'll never agree with everything the Americans say or do, but the relationship matters. And right at the minute, Keir Starmer's flip-flopping on whether they can use bases, whether they can't, is doing deep damage to the relationship that I fear goes beyond Trump. And the other element to this is that one of the few things the Americans still respect us for militarily are our special forces, where we work incredibly closely with their people. And we currently got 242 under potential criminal prosecution. So that's what matters to me. It's the big, whatever, I've known Trump for years, fine. I agree with many things, I disagree with others, but it's the relationship with America that I believe is absolutely key.
And you say Starmer's harming the special relationship. Is Trump also harming it?
Well, Trump is responding. Trump naturally expected Diego Garcia to be there to be used at the beginning, and it wasn't, and then it was. And if you poke Donald Trump with a stick, don't be surprised when he fights back.
Hi Nigel,
hello.
Brianna James from PA. You've received a little bit of criticism about your energy bill's price draw.
Really?
Are you worried at all that you've broken any electoral rules by
No,
doing this?
I'm not in the least bit worried.
Because Carl Turner has said it could be seen as treating...
Carl Turner?
ICO claims today.
ICO claims.
Is Carl Turner the most reliable MP at this current moment in time? Entirely your choice. I shan't answer that. All I can tell you is there was a very happy streak of Wigan last night. And what we're trying to do is draw attention to the fact that we have the highest industrial energy prices in the world, and our consumer prices are virtually at the top as well, and that much of it's unnecessary. The government keep trotting out, it's all about the spot global price. No, it isn't. When natural gas comes out of the ground in Montana, is liquefied, taken across the Atlantic, regassed, and purchased here, there is a massive cost in the middle of all of that, which if we were producing onshore and offshore gas, would not be the case. Our bills could be a lot lower, let alone better energy security. And I think it's a very powerful argument, and I think it's one that's catching on across the country, and certainly within industry.
And just back to Starmer, what did you think of him saying he's fed up of Donald Trump?
Well, he's fed up with Putin, he's fed up with Donald Trump, but he should really be fed up with Ed Miliband, because he's the guy. And you've seen overnight, OpenAI, we have no prospects in Britain of getting involved in any of these 21st century technologies. We've literally priced ourselves out of the market. So it's Ed Miliband who should be really upset with.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nigel, can I just have a quick back up here, please?
Bit look.
Fabulous, thank you so much.
Very good indeed. Excellent. Okay.
Now the people.
Yes, fine. Hello, hi.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Slogan, get Starmer out. Why focus on Starmer and not something that Reform can actually offer voters at the local election?
Because this set of elections are in some of Labour's strongest areas in the country. And the offering that he gave the country back in 2024, frankly, has been ignored completely He's put in a whole host of policies that he didn't even talk about in the manifesto. He's done many things that I believe are injurious to the country. He's the most unpopular Prime Minister in living memory. And yeah, of course, on the national issues, it's very clear where we disagree. On local government matters, I would just say this. We have majority control of the 10 county councils. We're a year in. We have saved a lot of money. We have kept our council tax rises lower than anybody else's. And I'm saying to people, if you want real change, it isn't going to come from anybody else but us.
And the Prime Minister says he's fed up of bills here being affected by the actions of Putin and Trump around the world. Are you fed up by their actions affecting bills here?
I'm fed up by the last Conservative government putting net zero into law and Ed Miliband, despite the global crisis that we're in, refusing to change course. Of course, if Putin does stuff, if Trump and Israel do stuff, it affects us. No doubt about that. But it's what we're doing here, with the highest industrial prices in the world, with deindustrialization on the most extraordinary scale, a huge amount of self-inflicted harm. I would suggest the Prime Minister looks closer to home.
But it sounds like you do put some of the blame for the economic impact of what's going on in the Middle East at the feet of Trump.
Yes, but also I wouldn't be very keen to see Iran with a nuclear weapon and using it against Israel. So you have to weigh that up, one up against the other.
And should the Prime Minister be visiting Cyprus as part of his current tour of the Middle East?
A bit late, really, isn't it? I mean, it took us 3 weeks and 1 day to send a single naval vessel to what is British sovereign territory. And even that one is now in dock. And it seems to me that the Prime Minister, by vacillating over the course of the last few weeks, has upset the Americans, upset the Cypriots, and frankly, upset our great allies in the Gulf as well. This is not our finest hour.
Zach Polanski has branded Donald Trump unpredictable and dangerous. Haven't his recent comments and actions proved him right?
Zach Polanski. Oh, he's the chap that wants to ban horse racing and laughing and fun. He's a crank. We'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There are 2 things we're seeing. One is the Conservatives almost disappearing to irrelevance. I mean, look at the recent by-election in Gorton and Denton. What do they get? 1.9%? Their lowest by-election score for 100 years or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And secondly, a wildly unpopular Labour government, despite this being not even 2 years into their massive victory in terms of parliamentary seats. A deeply unpopular Prime Minister at every level. Could be, there's a Mancunian who could be more popular, but that didn't happen when the opportunity came up, which was fascinating, the way that whole thing played out. And I think Reform's big message, which is that Britain is broken, and until you recognise and admit how broken it is, you can't begin to think about the radical solutions needed to fix it. And that's where we are. Mm-hmm. Starmer says Britain's not broken. Kevin Badenoch says Britain's not broken. Ed Davey says that's all being too negative. But rather like a diagnosis after a scan, you need to know how bad things are before you can start to sort of get the surgery needed to sort it out. And that's where we are. And a lot of the public feel the same way.
You mentioned the Gorton and Denton by-election. Obviously, that was huge news in this region.
Yeah.
What lessons have been learned, or has the party changed any of its approach since that result?
Oh Lord, no! We did incredibly well. Mm-hmm. It was the best by-election campaign we've ever fought, in terms of professionalisation, a canvassing app on the phones. We made huge strides, and in Denton, we scored between 45 and 50% of the vote. Did phenomenally well. The big lessons to be learned from it, I'm afraid the Manchester Police have decided to ignore. I've been saying for years, since the Oldham West by-election in 2015, that I was fearful for election integrity in this country. I felt the system was being abused, and I've been sort of, told that I'm conspiratorial, that I'm a sore loser, sour grapes. But what was so interesting that night was this group called Democracy Volunteers, who are basically Lib Dems. They're not Reform supporters, they're Lib Dems, who say they saw what was described as family voting in 68% of the polling stations they went to. Now, we have had, since the mid-1800s, a law that says you go into the privacy of the polling booth on your own, so that nobody can oversee you, nobody can coerce you. And this has been broken wholesale. And the Manchester police have decided, nothing to see here, move on. So sadly, some of the big lessons that should have been learned, not by us, but for the country, at the moment haven't been.
So do you still feel that that's gone unaddressed? Those allegations,
Completely
yeah.
unaddressed, totally ignored. And that's what they could see, let alone what was happening on postal votes. And whether women in certain communities were even seeing the ballot paper of the postal vote they were signed up to. Plus, the other shocking thing was this concept of Commonwealth voting. People with Pakistani passports who've been here for 2 years could vote in British parliamentary elections. This is skewing the results. Now, you know, as I say, in the past, me making these arguments led to me being criticised very heavily. But when an independent group of Lib Dems says they've seen these abuses, we ought to take it more seriously.
Okay. Just on the terms of Reform's candidate selection, there's been a couple of stories in the media lately that Reform's sending out offers for people to be a paper candidate. What's your response to that?
All parties have been desperate to find candidates. And every party will know there are areas where they can win and areas where they haven't got a cat's chance in hell. But isn't it good to at least give the electorate an option to vote for the party?
Okay. What would you say that you talked to somebody from another paper? Just I heard you talking about, you know, radical reform. What do you think reform means in the Northwest specifically?
Oh, I think
What
it
could it
means. I think it means the Northwest not being a dumping ground,
Okay.
which frankly is what it's become, undeniably. The last figure I saw, the Northwest had taken 17 times more young men that had crossed the Channel than the Southeast. You are a dumping ground.
Okay.
I mean, you know, simple as that. And, you know, I remember the Runcorn, but I mean, okay, I know it's the other side of the Mersey, but
It's not too far from
it's
our
not
patch,
that
yeah.
far away.
Yeah.
I remember the by-election there, you know, and residential streets, and suddenly 15 young men are put in a house who, let's be honest, come from cultures that are very different to ours, have attitudes to how they treat women and girls that are very, very different to ours. So stopping the Northwest becoming a dumping ground would be the first thing.
Okay.
The second thing, much bigger picture and longer term, would be to reindustrialise the Northwest. Our energy policy is giving us the most expensive industrial energy in the world, and everything's closing down. Everything. Refining, manufacturing of all kinds, fabricated steel, cement making, brick making. We're literally losing all of this to other parts of the world, and then the goods are imported back here. We're not cutting CO2 emissions because they're producing the emissions. We're just exporting CO2 emissions, and it's doing us enormous damage. So we favour a massive change of energy policy. And yes, that would mean having a conversation about the Boland Reserve of shale gas. Now, there was a massive campaign fought up here against exploitation back in 2013, 14, 15, fears of earthquakes, etc., etc. Nearly all funded by Russia. Russia funded that propaganda campaign because they, of course, wanted to keep their own market share. Conversations around that too.
Okay. Just lastly, I know we don't have loads of time left. You're here to speak to candidates. What's your message going to be to them?
Get out and work. Get out and work, or I'll come and be after you. No, it's. So I've spoken to over 1,000 candidates in the last 2 or 3 weeks as I go around the country, and a lot of them are political versions. They've
interesting
never
term. Yeah.
done
Never-
well.
Do you mean never voted or never campaigned before?
I was only using the word in one context, not in any other.
No, I know.
They've never been members of a party. They've never campaigned before, and some are a bit nervous about going out and knocking on doors. And my message is, look, light summer evenings, that's when people are home. That's when people who work are back at home with the families, partners, whatever it may be. And you've got to get into the habit of doing it. Use the app that we produced. Get the data. And that's what I'll be talking to them about tonight. We're done. I do not believe Starbuck will still be Prime Minister at the end of the day.